Yes, if you're just joining us, this is Journalist Hangout on Sunday. We spend extra time to bring to you news and current affairs of national importance, and I still have Babajide Kolade Otitoju and Wale Adeoye in the house with me. After devastating floods that ravaged many states of the Federation, leaving hundreds of Nigerians homeless, victims of the crisis who sought refuge in schools and other temporary places are beginning to return to damaged and endangered homes. Many of the victims who began to return as the water recedes met their houses with cracked walls, weakened structure, collapsed fences and walls, coupled with an environment infested with dangerous reptiles and mosquitoes, exposing them to major health crisis. Some of the affected states are Taraba, Jigawa, Adamawa, Benue, Rivers, and Bayelsa states. Jide, we thank God. It was a very troubling, trying time for these people in this area. And when we started seeing the signs that the water, was subsiding, receding, and we just pray that government will help in the process of reintegrating them and rehabilitating them, because what we've described here, the structure, most of this structure, the integrity will be
already compromised.
Yes. Because when you have over 20 days that your building was submerged.
In Lokoja, I was in Lokoja last week. You will see some roofs. Those roofs covered by sand. These were houses that were completely submerged. Along Ganaja Road, that area submerged completely. Houses are literally buried by the water. But now everything is dried up, from the rooftop, covered. But now what you see just caked up earth with with the earth literally broken up.
Okay. As the water is...
It's receding. It has receded in so many of these areas. Even the Kotonkarfi, for example, around the place where you have the Muritala Bridge.
Okay.
That very, very important Muritala Bridge.
See this community.
On the right side, you still have some water. But generally, it has receded and people can move around freely. Now, the implication of this is that even for landlords who had houses in those areas, the value of their houses has declined, because that in this area is almost a yearly thing for it to be flooded. You rather look for somewhere else. And
don't wait for this season.
They won't be able to attract enough in terms of what people pay as rent. So it's a good thing that the water has receded, the floods have receded, but government also has to look at those buildings and ensure that people don't park into buildings whose structures have been compromised by months of being covered open water.
Wale? This situation, I think it's quite pathetic, and government will need to come to their rescue, and even people will be discouraged. And I'm sure a lot of people would have even deserted these communities.
Unfortunately, so many lives were also lost. I think in Nigeria we lost close to 600 people, including women and children. For me, what is important is that it has happened. What are we going to do to prevent future occurrence? It means we must be able to think at the regional and national levels of immediate solutions, medium-term solutions, and long-term solutions. I don't see that happening now, because from this month to around April next year or May, it's a window of opportunity for us to take certain decisions, even though they may not be permanent solutions, but at least that can mitigate against future occurrences. Because with climate change all over the world, you notice that this flooding was not just in Nigeria, in Pakistan, in US, Asia, everywhere. So it means that we need to begin to think of long-term solutions. I would have expected that the affected states will even call a kind of regional summit, where both of them will share, ideas together. Because some of these states are very close to each other. It means there is a common problem that is affecting them. I'm expecting the states to have a kind of meeting, come out with certain resolutions, and then the states to have joint meetings. What can we do together to ensure that this thing does not happen again in 2023? Even if it means approaching international bodies like the World Bank, the federal government, and all that. If it's about building, dam that can capture some of this flood temporarily or permanently, the states can come together to come with a project that says, okay, let us, even if it's going to be about building the dam in the next 5 years. But I've not seen that happening. Look at Bayelsa, that even homes of very prominent government officials were submerged in flood. The airport and everything. I've not seen a kind of response, even in terms of, a policy statement that will show that this will not happen again. So I think we should not just be looking at federal government alone. The state that has concern should also come out with, short-term, medium-term, and long-term policies so that this kind of thing will not happen, in the nearest future.
Do some states like Delta State open IDPs for these people? And we know that it's very difficult to sustain this kind of lifestyle. It would have altered their regular work, their farms and everything. And are you not, don't you feel that even agriculture will be affected from next year?
Yes, this flooding has come with some serious consequences. I don't think, even by ESA, I don't think students are allowed to return to school, because about 2 months ago, the schools were shut because of, Bayelsa is Nigeria's gateway to the Atlantic. So Bayelsa was thoroughly affected.
The water went into
cemetery. It assumed corpses. It assumed corpses. It really brought pains upon our people. When I went to Delta State about 3 weeks ago or so, we were airborne. I was looking at areas devastated by flooding. In fact, all you can do is pity those people, because you see houses while overhead, you are looking down, you see houses already submerged. So I wonder, how do people survive this kind of experience? Now, people are forced to harvest their crops before due time.
Okay,
because of the fact that the flood washed away their farmlands. Rice farms destroyed, submerged. So putting even the livelihoods of people working those rice farms at stake. It's already been predicted that next year, even the World Bank has told us that next year will be tough in terms of
let's speak
food
Adams.
security.
Adams is calling us from Lagos. Thank you for joining us, Adams.
Hello, sir.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm graduating with another.
Thank you, Adam.
I'm in respect of this current issue. What are you asking for? I want to advise the government, please, sir.
Struggling to hear Adams. I think the connection is not good. Just try and call us back later. We'll still have time to take your calls.
So it will be tough for our people next year, because people could not farm. People could not. People lost their farmlands to flooding, and it came close to harvest time. That is what even makes it extremely painful, because it leaves no room for recovery. If it had happened earlier, with at least you can say you are going back to plant fresh crops and all that, but it left our people without that opportunity, and it's extremely painful. But what are the remedial steps that we can take? Some states are building embankments and all that. Those embankments can only protect small areas. How about the hinterland, the villages? How many embankments can you build in such places? The World Bank is assisting Nigeria, but I think we need
more
a
assistance.
lot more help before we can protect our people better. This will continue. This is a result of global warming, irregular rainfall and all that. Today, we were beaten by the rain. And it was very
Inside
heavy
the studio.
coming into the studio. I was even wet. So late in December, we are not supposed to be
telling
seeing
you.
that volume of rainfall. But that is the price that we pay for the damage that we have done to the environment.
And some people will even suffer epidemic. There will be kind of epidemic outbreaks as a result of this.
A lot of epidemic that are not even being reported. But we need.
So reptiles are on the prowl.
Yeah, we need a roadmap, to address this issue, because it's an ongoing problem, and like Babajide said, it's going to get worse. So what are we really doing? As corporate, at level of corporate, at level of the states, local governments, even with tree planting campaign, to a large extent, it's going to stop flooding. But it seems we are just waiting for another disaster to happen. I don't think the state governments are doing enough.
Nigeria generally has not responded
Very well.
in a good way. We were warned that this thing will happen, but everyone just kept on playing
Because
politics.
the president has given them
Not
till
really.
the end of January to release a paper on this.
Okay, well, I just hope that next time we'll be better
Prepared.